A few people have asked me about how I convert my colour shots into black and white for the Pygmy series, which I've just done. And I'm sitting here at work and I'm bored and I really don't want to work, so I thought, well, maybe I'll put together a tutorial of my workflow, and that'll make me feel like I've contributed something to the world today. So if you would like to know how it was done, stick around and you can watch a really unprofessional tutorial shot by a very unprofessional woman. But hey, you know. Okay, I shoot in RAW, so I double click on that and that's going to open the shot in Camera Raw. So it opens it up there. Okay, now the first thing I do is look at it at 100% because I tend to get very carried away with trying to get my shots absolutely perfect, and I try to ignore the fact that they might be soft, and it's not a good thing to do because you just waste half your life doing it. So I get rid of very strict now and I bring it up to 100%, and that shows me the actual pixels. So, you know, it's not brilliantly sharp, but it's not too bad. You know, I was in a field in Congo at the time. There are things concerning me. So this is the shot straight out of the camera. No processing done to it whatsoever. I'm wanting to convert it into a black and white. There's a few things I have to check first. One is, do I have any highlight areas which are just so clipped they're not giving me anything? And I do that by pressing this little triangle up here. That would show me if I had highlight areas. It doesn't, so theoretically it's exposed correctly. I'll check the shadows one now. Okay, see a little blue thing coming up here? That tells me that that's just black and it's got no colour in it at all. That would be an issue if it covered most of the shot, but in this instance it doesn't bother me, so I'll just clip that. Now, my first stage in the process is to put a massive amount of light into it, actually way beyond what it should have. But fear not, there is method in my madness. So I up the exposure here. Now you see this red coming up here. That's because I've got the highlight warning clipping tool on, and that's telling me that I've completely blown those out. Again, that doesn't really worry me for what I'm doing, so I'm just going to turn that off. I'm going to lift up the fill light as well, which gets all those mid-tones, and I'm going to up the brightness. So at this stage it's looking really washed out, and you would never actually run with this by itself. I'll just click this again. Okay, all these highlight areas, I might try and get them back by moving the recovery slider, and there you go. So that's fixed that problem anyway. Okay, so it looks pretty yucky at this stage. The next thing I do is raise the blacks here. Okay, you can see what a great difference this is going to make. Now to me that's already looking better. This is where we were and this is where we are now. The next thing I do is, I'm not going to worry about these by the way because I'm converting to black and white. That's for another tutorial on another day when I'm bored. I'm playing with the idea of putting strong contrast into things at the moment. This woman obviously has a dark complexion, and I think contrast is going to work really well, especially given she's got a light top. Now if you really wanted contrast, you should see me, shots of me in with the Pygmy tribe. I look like Casper the Friendly Ghost, you know, in Australia, let alone over in Congo. So we're in medium contrast at the moment. I'd put it into strong contrast. So it's just ever so slight difference. Darkens the area here, but I really like it. Next we have the sharpening tool. Now the sharpening tool in Adobe Camera Raw is fantastic. I have presets for portraits, but basically the amount of sharpening, well that's obvious, you know, the higher you go up here, the more it's going to get. Oh, the other thing is you can only ever judge the differences if you have it in 100%, so okay. Now you'll see when I do change the amount here, but it's going way too sharp and it's going to bring out all of the pores of her skin and create artifacts for her skin. We don't want that. In a portrait generally you'll have this down about 25. Radius is just the too hard to explain. I'll just leave it at 1. And detail, leave it at 25 for a portrait as well. If you were doing a landscape shot, you know, you'd really up this up to maybe 100 or so because you want everything to be in focus. You want some subtlety in portraits, so we'll leave that at 25. This masking tool is really good. What it does is it sharpens in layers, okay? So instead of just sharpening the overall image, it will sharpen bit by bit by bit. Let me show you what I mean. I put my finger down here on the option you know, button on a Mac. I can't remember what it is on a PC, but I'm sure you guys will know. It goes to white. Now watch what happens as I slide this slider up. Some of the areas become dark. Now the areas that become dark are the areas that are not being sharpened. The areas that remain white are the areas that are being sharpened, like around the eyes and around the lips. What's effectively happening is that the shot is being sharpened in layers, so you can control what areas don't get sharpened and what areas do get sharpened. That way the face remains unsharpened and more flattering, and the eyes and the lips remain sharpened and become features. Okay, so I'm going to stop it about there. So these bits are sharp in here, and the lines here are sharp, and the edges of the lips are sharp, but the rest of the skin has been treated much more respectfully. Don't worry about the luminance and the colour. Okay, then we go into here and I press the all-important button, Convert to Grayscale. I'm going to go back out to, Fit on Screen. Again, I'm going to play with these functions here. See how much I can get away with lifting the exposure, how much I can get away with lifting the fill light and the brightness, and then again up the blacks. So you get this really rich black. If we go here, I'll show you what we started off with, was this, okay, in colour, and now it looks like that. So I think that's looking pretty strong. She's got these fantastic eyes, hasn't she? Now, because I can't resist, I've taken it into Photoshop to show you how I grunge it up for the effect that I'm going through a stage of at the moment. So it's in Photoshop now. I'm going to create an extra layer by clicking Apple J. I always do things on extra layers so I can always go back to the original if something goes horribly wrong. I'm talking fast because I want this to be quick. Now I'm going to zoom in on those wonderful eyes because I want to up the contrast of them. I've put a marquee around them. Here we go, adjustment layer, brightness, contrast. Let's make them really bright and up the contrast. Beautiful piercing black and white eyes. There we go. Before, after, before, after. Another thing I often do is create an extra layer, Control J, and then go soft light, merge that down, you get it much more richer blacks. Might drop the opacity a little bit there. This is not going to look realistic, by the way, it's deliberately artistic. And to get that over grungy look, or whatever you might call it, I'll make another layer, go to filter, down to other, high pass, and you get this kind of weird thing going on. I just up the pixels here to make that like that. Press OK, and then change the opacity here. Yeah, maybe. Or even go soft light. Combine it all together. Anyway, it goes on and on and on, and it's good fun, and it makes for traditional black and white shots as opposed to post-digital black and white shots, even though it's digital. So have fun.